Okay.
Totally fine.
Hi, Amu. Thank you for being here
Hi, Gabby.
today. How are you?
All right. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
So for the audience, it's we're gonna talk about Amu has done 12 weeks with me, um, and a 12-week program, and we are gonna talk about your experience. You're going to talk about it, and of course, I mostly know the answers, but this is for all the people who are curious. So what the heck trauma-informed personal training is, and what it's
Yeah.
like to be a client. And so here comes the first question. So
Sure.
when it's a three-part question, Amu. So what
Mm-hmm.
led you to booking a consult with me? And what was
Mm-hmm.
happening to your body at that point, and what was challenging to you in your life?
Hmm. What led to the consult was a lot of research on somatic experiencing and having tried and failed to feel my body with regular trainers. So to see trauma informed was like groundbreaking for me. And I was like, I have to see what this is about. I have to see what it feels like. Um, what was happening in my body was a lot of disconnection, a lot of feeling like her and I were not in sync. We were not the same person. We were not moving together. So my goals for her, she was not capable of. And her messages to me, I wasn't hearing. Um, what was the third part?
What was challenging in your life at that moment, at that
In
point?
my life?
But it's all the questions are
Yeah,
all intertwined. So if you feel
yeah,
you've answered, feel free to
yeah.
just, yeah.
Geez, Gabby, what wasn't challenging at that point in my life?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Everything felt challenging, to be honest. And I wanted to feel in control of something, and the body felt like a good place to start.
Beautiful. I love how you put it. I love it. So what kind of shifts you started to notice as the sessions progressed, and you
Yeah.
explored all the things that you just mentioned?
Woo, seismic shifts, cosmic shifts, sometimes very scary shifts, to be honest. I was like, Gabby, why do I feel this so deeply? Suddenly, I've never experienced this before. And you very calmly were like, yeah, sounds good, sounds about right. And I was in my mind like, this is so scary. I'm panicking, like this can't be a thing. And you very calmly talk me through like, no, actually, that should have been how your body felt from beginning, or how you and your body felt. It just was so, our language was like, how loud is it? It was just so muted. And it slowly got louder. So it sounded like suddenly a very loud sound, when really that's where it should have been, just because of how quiet it was before. So it was so much easier to notice, like, in this moment, do I want to be still or do I want to be moving? Right. So, like, what does that mean about how safe I'm feeling? Because, like, you feel safe when you feel comfortable being still. And if you're just like, I don't want to close my eyes during this meditation, or I'd like to rock back and forth while I'm talking, or I want to do smaller movements because the big ones feel too overwhelming, or um, there were so many, I noticed that there were so many times in my life and with my body that I was pushing past my limits, because I just didn't know where the limits were. I was like, this thing needs to happen, therefore it will. And then through working together, it was like, well, is that entirely true? Does that need to happen to that extent? And what is the risk of pushing past that limit, right? And how do we start within a place of safety and slowly feel out where the limit is, so that when we reach it, we know. And when we exceed it, we know. And when we're beneath it, we know. And we're not just like blindly charging through anything from like a squat to a conversation to a more abstract challenge in life, right? I just noticed how much more nuance there is in how hard we go. It's not just like, are you doing it or not? You know, like, are you trying or are you not trying? Are you good or are you not good? Are you pushing or are you not pushing? There's so much in between that. And learning those like tiny incremental shifts with that was like wild to me. I remember the first time you said, what if you just gave 50% if that's all you can do? And I was like, I can do that. Is that allowed? Like, of course it's allowed. Who said it wasn't allowed? And I couldn't even answer that question because who said that 50% is not allowed if that's what your body can do that day, you know? So that even mentally was a huge shift. And I think to speak to the earlier question of disconnection, my body started to trust even me more because I was respecting her boundaries. And so it was easier to go further together because my body wasn't like, oh, I know she's going to push me past my limits, so I'm just going to not even try, or I'm just going to shut down. It was easier. It was a little bit of like a dance negotiation of like, how hard can we go today? You know, how hard are we going to push today? What does that mean for us today? And that was wild to me. It really felt like opening another set of eyes and another set of ears, rather, to aid our metaphor of sound.
Oh, beautiful. So you mentioned that, you know, when we had a consultation, the extremes that, you know, doing very little or nothing or doing a lot when it comes to fitness. And so my question is that what was when you worked out with other trainers or the approach that you knew before, what was the difference between that? And you already touched on this a little bit, but I'm curious in more depth. So what's the difference between the conventional fitness journey and the trauma-informed journey that you experienced with me and by this approach?
Definitely think the rigidity, you know, a conventional trainer comes in with a set plan and they're like, we're going to do 10 of these and 5 of these and 20 of these and like rest for 30 seconds. And, you know, it's like very, very set. And it's like, but you came up with that plan without really knowing my body, where I am today, like the context I'm coming from, like the day I'm coming into the session with, you know, whereas we start with an off camera in terms of the recording the session check-in, which is like, hey, where are you today? Like, how are you feeling? What are you bringing into the session? What do you need to put down? Is there anything that might affect your ability to like show up today? And then we like live adjust, as opposed to like, you know, your cat could have died this morning, but we're doing, you know, 20 reps, which some people can, right? And if you can, then go ahead. But just that sense of like being a whole person in the session as opposed to a body that needs to get through a couple of processes, I would say is a huge difference. There's a lot of like, oh, this is actually, we've never talked about this, but this is, I think, a huge difference in that like conventional trading is very much like when it burns, like good, push through the burn, like, you know, you have to go home and feel it and be sore to feel like you accomplished anything. And with us, you were like, pain is your body's way of saying that it's reached a limit and you should probably stop. You know, that's a very, very different approach to respecting the body as sovereign, as having its own boundaries, as having its own language to tell you, and not sort of overriding that system. And I would say there was a lot of co-regulation in our sessions. In conventional training, it's like you and the trainer, and it's very like transactional. It's, you know, they're there to do a job and you're there to like get the most out of your money, so to speak, right? Push yourself harder, spend the most time, do the most reps. Whereas in a trauma-informed way, it's like you are through your body working through a lot of things that would otherwise be very difficult by yourself. So this space is a container such that if it gets too hard, you have somebody who gives you permission to say, okay, we can stop now. And if you're going too light, you have some, if you don't, not even going too light, if you don't know where to go, you have somebody who's like, this is where we're going to go. This is how we're going to get there. Does that feel good? It's co-regulating as opposed to transactional. As I can't find a good opposite word, but I can probably think of more, but those three feel the most top of mind right now.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. And it's interesting because your answers, or you have been mentioning a lot of the tools that we use throughout the sessions. And I'm going to name a couple of tools
Yeah.
and then I'll have the question. So the tools such as the not giving 100%, maybe 30, 50, 70 based on how you feel in the moment, or not pushing through the pain, but leaning in and really feeling what you can give in the moment, and just the pain is a sign that okay, it's time to stop, and how to soften the edges per se. So how do these tools serve you now after all the work that we've done together?
Yeah. Gosh, all the time. And I tell people, I'll be like, my trauma-informed personal trainer would say right now, they're like, God, you're always talking about that lady. You don't even know her. But they're a very helpful voice in my mind. And like, this sounds so cliche because it's like, what would so-and-so say? But really, when you're getting the signals and you feel a bit, so when it's about those earlier shifts we were talking about, where there's more awareness to pause and say, I'm getting a signal, like what is it, first of all, which I never used to do. It was just like, if you're tired, drink some coffee and keep going. If you're overwhelmed, just like breathe and keep going. If you're in pain, like take a painkiller and keep going, right? Like it's just such a way of life that we all think is very, very normal. So first, like, the daily awareness to be like, okay, keep going actually isn't the default answer. There might be a different one here. So pause. And then I really do stop and ask myself, like, which of these tools are applicable, right? So I still do struggle with a lot of all or nothing thinking in all things, not just in fitness and wellness, but it's really helpful to, when something feels difficult, rather than be like, I'm not going to succeed today, so I just need to give 0, to be like, well, what if we gave 20% instead? I usually do like the whole 10,000 steps thing. That's very important to me. I usually do it with my cousins on the phone. So we're all doing it together. And sometimes I just don't really want to get out of bed. Sometimes it's cold. Sometimes I'm having one of those days when my body aches because of, trauma and other things. And it would be easy those days to be like, let me just draw a bath and then like work from bed and then try again tomorrow. But it's also, what the tools have helped me to do is, for example, say, hello, darling. What the tools have also helped me to say is, it's also okay to take one round around the block and see how you feel. And if you want to do another one, you can. But if you want to go back up, then that's okay. Like, what that means is that you got sun, is that you got out of bed, is that you got fresh air, is that you gave yourself like another chance to try, as opposed to like give up. Like, sorry, now that's my puppy in the background.
Yeah, there you go. Everyone's here.
Exactly. A jump. So I think it's two parts. One would be pausing at the decision-making point. So not just assuming that like getting to the end is a given, right? But that there is an opportunity to pause and be like, what decisions can we make here? And then the second part is making the decision on which tool to use. And another one that I use a lot is particularly in fitness, is, for example, if you join a gym, right? And then for me, I like exclusively do classes because I don't know what to do with those machines. And the classes, when you're in the right space, are great. Like the music is loud and everybody's sweating, you're pumping through it, and it's like such a vibe. And for a long time I was doing like a lot of weights, mostly because I just like the release that I feel during and after. But I was like, if I can build some muscle and lose some weight during it, that would be great. And I was feeling kind of stuck because neither of those things were happening. Like I was enjoying the process, but I wasn't seeing results. That wasn't particularly stressing me, but it was on my mind. And then a framework that one of the tools, rather, I'm a consultant, so I say framework, but tools is what we use.
Yeah.
Was that it's first release, then stretch, then strengthen, is like the trajectory of like getting strong. Like you can't bulk train a body that's still tense, that's still sort of stuck in trauma, that's still stuck in fight or flight. Like you need to drain that energy, like release it. And we do a lot of foam rolling, myofascial release, self massage. And then when that starts to feel really safe, then we can stretch, right? Then we can be like, okay, what else can the body do? How can the body get itself out of its comfort zone in a way that's still in the window of tolerance? And then when that starts to feel comfortable, okay, now we can like push and be like, okay, we're going to like lose this weight, we're going to gain this muscle, we're going to run this much. But to start at the end, which is how most people approach getting to a gym, right? We're going to run this amount, we're going to lose this weight, we're going to build this muscle, is like, it's starting at the end, right? And you're like, oh my God, this is so hard. Why is this so hard? I don't get why this is so hard. And it's because like all the steps that build up to it were absent. And I've never heard that in my life before. Heart 12 sessions. And I don't think anybody I know has either, or will, before this video goes live.
Yeah, it goes out, and the secret is out as well, thanks to you.
Yeah.
So how has your life changed by working together? And of course, everything that you mentioned it's in there. But if you were to sum it up, what has changed in your life?
Jeez. I think I've met my body. I wouldn't say I'm fully integrated with her yet, but I'm like way, 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 way closer than I ever was. And it's a much more empowered place to keep trying, like in other areas in life from. It's a far less dissociated place. And that has a lot of power. So yeah, it's been tremendously, I mean, helpful feels like such a blasé word, like, oh, that was so helpful, thanks. You know, when someone holds the door open, that was so helpful, thank you. But this was more like, this was such a point in time shift. I think particularly at the point in my life when it happened. I don't know if 26 is early, mid 20s. It's not, it's like late, right? I don't know. But it's at a point in my life where I'm having to consolidate a lot of myself and pull a lot of myself together and hold a lot of myself together. And I think that process, without feeling integrated with my body, would be kind of a mess, right? It would be a little bit disorganized, it would be fragmented, it would be like a lot of talk therapy that intellectually resonates, but not so much, you know, figuring out like what that means as in a holistic sense, you know. And to the earlier point, it's what is really phenomenal about trauma-informed personal training is that you're training yourself actually as a whole person through the gateway of the body. It's not just like training, like, and I think if somebody isolates the personal training part, they can miss what really it is. I mean, this is, you know, quite personal, but we had a session where there was no training involved at all, when I was just like not in a good place in life. And we were able to talk about like, where in the body does it feel it, and what would your body say to you if she could speak, and what do you think she needs right now? And that is non-existent in traditional personal training, but it's a way that people don't think about training the body. So training the body to tell you what it needs, training the body to signal to you, training you, the ego you, the mind you, to listen. And like, people wouldn't consider that personal training, but it really, really is, in a trauma-informed way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for taking the time. And I'm just gonna stop the video and we'll say bye in a more intimate
Sure.
way, if that's okay.
Sure. Thanks, everybody.